Hello friends! Company Communicator is a revolutionary app to modernize communications but lacks approval workflow. Organizations of all sizes need to ensure comms are on point and approved by the appropriate communication leads. Larger orgs also want to share the Company Communicator app deployment for groups like HRIT or even multiple business units without having to deploy multiple flavors or versions of Company Communicator. I posted a solution for approval workflow and sharing Company Communicator with multiple departments. It leverages my favorite combination of forms and flow. First, the form allows anyone to request a new company communication. On form submission, we trigger an approvals workflow for the department comms lead to either approve or reject. And once approved, the automation creates a new draft communication directly in the Company Communicator app. Let's take a look at the solution live. Let's start with the form. The form allows anybody to submit an idea for company communication. Anybody with access to this form at least. This intake could also be a Power App. The advantage of the Power App is we could do additional validation of these fields as users input. But for this simple example, let's stick to the form. The primary use case of this form is to capture the key fields we need to create the Company Communicator card at the end. So we need to capture card title, card summary, the image URL, the author, the button title, and the button URL. I'm also capturing a date and time for this comm to be sent and making the user pick a department. I'll show you in a minute that the flow keys off the department you pick to pick a specific approver. So for example, if it's an IT comm, it goes to Mary for approval, and if it's Office for President, it goes to Nestor for approval. So I have a simple card drafted here, which is an IT card of what's new in Teams for the March edition. Let's go ahead and click Submit. I'll show you the results of the form that we submitted in a second, but first I want to walk through the flow that does the automation for this solution. The first two steps are required when we're triggering a flow from a form. So we need to get the details of the submission when a user fills out our form. So all we do is these first two steps that point to the form that I just showed you. Next, we initialize two new variables. One is called var approvers, and this is a string which is blank. And the next is a var row key, and this is a random GUID that we need for the Company Communicator app to create the draft card. Next, the flow switches on the department that the user selects. If we go back to my form, we'll see they can pick one of four departments: IT, HR, Facilities, or Office of the President. So this is a simple switch case where, depending on the department they choose, we set the appropriate approver in the var approvers variable. So if they choose IT, the approver or approvers are Nestor. And if they pick HR, the approvers in my case are still Nestor, but you get the point. So once we switch off the department, we know the proper approver, we send them an approval. So this is the step that just completed. And if we go to Nestor's email, we'll see that he has a new email with the preview of the card that the user submitted. So you can see this is very descriptive. Please approve or reject the new request for company communication. It's coming from the IT department. It was submitted at this date. Here's the title of the card. And there's a preview of what the card's actually going to look like once it gets sent to users. Right? Title, image, some text, and then a link that works to learn more. So if this looks good, Nestor's going to go ahead and approve and say, great, you can send this out at the end of the month. Click Approve. If you wanted to reject it, you could enter comments, hey, work further on this, and try again. But in this case, he'll approve. Okay, here we are back in the flow, and we just started our approval, and Nestor approved it. Next step is a condition. Was it approved or not? So in our case, you saw it was. So if it's approved, we're going to send a summary email to both parties to let them know that's all approved. If it's rejected, we're going to do the same. And then if it's approved, we're going to write directly to the Azure storage table, which your Company Communicator deployment utilizes. So you create a connection directly to the storage account, and then the table for draft cards is notification data with a partition key draft notifications. So what this automation does is use all the values that we've collected earlier in the form to actually create the new draft comms. So if we go back to our Company Communicator Author tool, we should see a new draft comms here of what's new in Teams for March. And all the operator would need to do is send this at the appropriate time. There's our card. So check out the solution, download the flow on GitHub, check out the Company Communicator Adoption Kit. I hope this is useful and helps your adoption and enjoyment of the Company Communicator app template.